Chapter 1331. Metal in Wei Chengyuan's words confused many people, but people like Wei Jianxing and Uncle Chiu showed a look of astonishment. Tiangang array only existed in the legend. It belonged to the array hundreds of millions of years ago. This young man in front was only in his 20s, yet he could set up a Tiangang array, which was incredible. However, these people didn't know how shocked Wei Chengyuan was, because many people had never heard of the Tiangang array. They only knew that this array powerful and ancient, but few people know that the most difficult thing about Tiangang array was not the array, but the final symbol that activated the array. The process was extremely dangerous. The use of spiritual power and the drawing of the symbol, as long as there was a slight mistake, the array would collapse. A terrifying explosion would occur that stretches for thousands of miles. But this person set up the Tiangang array like he was just breathing. He didn't look hesitant and nervous at all. Who is this person? Xue Sha in the air also saw the strange runes appearing above the Beijing pavilion. He was surprised too. He knew all of Venerable Hui Yu's subordinates, but he had never seen this inconspicuous young man who suddenly appeared. Moreover, Xue Sha could only see that this man was only at the peak of the nascent soul stage, but he felt that this man was shrouded in a mist, making him unable to see it clearly. It was this person who stabilized the barrier that was about to collapse. Xue Sha looked down at Nangong Yu coldly and said solemnly, "Boy, who are you? Who told you to meddle in our business?" Nangong Yu was busy strengthening Tiangang array, so he didn't even bother looking at Xue Sha. Xue Sha was infuriated in the air. He glared at Nangong Yu. "Court death. Just a mere nascent soul stage, how dare you? I will crush your bone into ashes, and I'll see if you will still be arrogant by then." As he spoke, the sword in his hand, which was originally only 2 feet long, suddenly became 10 feet long. The giant sword floated in the air, emitting a sinister glow. Xue Sha folded his hands together, forming a symbol, then the symbol shot a fireball at the giant sword. Xue Sha pointed at the barrier of the Beijing pavilion and shouted fiercely, "Break!" In an instant, the loud whistling sound came as the giant fireball was launched at the barrier. It was about to engulf the Beijing pavilion in the next moment. Even though Wei Chengyuan, Wei Jianxing and the others were full of confidence in Tiangang array just now, they still felt the slightest fear when they saw this overwhelming fire. That was endless black flame, the flame that could burn everything in the world. Even the spiritual power of the barrier would be devoured little by little. Venerable and Yi burned the souls of so many people with this endless black flame, terrifying countless people. Unexpectedly, he actually gave this endless black flame to his subordinate Xue Sha. Tiangang array, could it really stop this endless black flame? In the operating room, when the shaking stopped, everything was calm and orderly again. While exploring the lesions in the middle-aged man's brain with divine sense, He slowly removed the lesion and washed it with diluted spirit spring water. Chapter 1332. Spy. There was a simple hourglass next to the operating table, and the fine sand in the hourglass flowed bit by bit as time passed. He's eyes fixed on the comatose patient, so he didn't see Dr. Min, who was paralyzed by the fear and vomiting, slowly stood up. At this moment, there was no fear on his face but a malicious intent. He also had a dagger with an emerald luster in his hand. This dagger was smeared with a deadly poison. Just piercing the skin a little bit could kill someone completely. Dr. Min approached the He who was concentrating on the operation step by step. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He didn't dare to do it when Wei Jianxing was there, and he didn't think it was the best time before that manservant had left. Having been by Venerable Hui Yu's side for so many years, he had only one chance to complete the mission given by his master. That was to put Venerable Hui Yu to death completely. Now, there are only Shi Yu and Venerable Hui Yu left in this room. As long as he killed Shi Yu, Venerable Hui Yu would surely die. Thinking of this, Dr. Min's eyes flashed with fiery excitement. And his dagger was getting closer and closer to Shi Yu's back. "Die for me!" A scream resounded in Dr. Min's heart. His face suddenly turned hideous, and the knife in his hand stabbed the boy in front of him fiercely. Poochie, that was the sound of the dagger piercing into the flesh. A burst of ecstasy surged in Dr. Min's heart, but before he could open his mouth to laugh, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his body. Afterward, he looked at his hand in horror. He had already attacked Shiyu's back with a knife. He should have succeeded. But the fact was, his knife was still held in midair, and there were purple vines wrapped around his hand. Pain, severe pain, spread from his back to his whole body. Then he heard the voice of a young little girl behind him. If you want to disturb the young lady during her surgery, you must also ask us whether we agree or not. Dr. Min's eyes were full of astonishment. He turned to look back with difficulty. What caught his eye were a few young spiritual pets. There was a pink pig, a black little dragon, a silver little fox, and a silly ugly cow. These seemingly inconspicuous spiritual pets, if he encountered them at a usual day, he would not care about them at all. But at this moment he saw unconcealed ridicule and killing intent in the eyes of these little spiritual pets. Dr. Min turned around in pain and looked at the young man who was still concentrating on the operation not far away. His face distorted again because of the pain and unwillingness. Shiyu, you have been guarding me for a long time? What responded to him was Shiyu's indifferent voice. Little Purple, clean up this person. This is a sterile operating room. Don't let him contaminate this place. The purple vines that were originally wrapped around Dr. Min moved cheerfully. All the vines rose into the sky, wrapping Dr. Min with a terrified face. Dr. Min shouted sharply, Shiyu, I have been following his honor for many years. If you kill me like this, his honor will not let you go. The screams echoed in the empty room, causing several little guys to cover their ears in disgust. Chapter 1333, Surgery Successful. Little Golden Dragon even complained, Little Purple, stop playing and swallow this guy. Don't disturb boss for surgery. Purple Abyss Vine shook. This time, she wrapped Dr. Min into a silkworm cocoon, showing no mercy. Then came the creepy crackling sounds from the cocoon. After about 5 minutes, there was no more Dr. Min in the world. There was only a faint smell of blood and clothes scattered all over the room. The little guys laughed and went back to Hishi's void hand in hand. And Hishi's surgery was gradually coming to an end. While doing the stitching, she glanced back at the clothes scattered on the ground. Hishi half smiled, I'm so sorry to kill one of your subordinates. I heard that the old man has been with you for decades. You won't blame me, will you? The next moment, a man's voice with a leisurely smile sounded in the empty room. Little girl, my life is still in your hands. What do you think? Hishi raised her head and smiled toward an empty space. In that space, the phantom of a person was floating. It was the middle-aged man who was undergoing surgery. The movements in Hishi's hands did not stop for a moment, but a sullen smile appeared on her face. I thought that if I can't cure your brain disease, you will really die. It turns out that you still have such a backup plan. What should I say? Is it really older and wiser? The middle-aged man in the space, who was Venerable Huiyu, touched his chin and looked at her meaningfully. There was a deep smile in his eyes. Little girl, I didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who can see the soul with the naked eye. Even your little lover, whose identity and strength are unfathomable, didn't see my soul leaving the body. I didn't expect you to be able to see it. Hishi's face turned red when she heard that, little lover, and her movements also paused slightly. Venerable Huiyu smiled lowly and continued, although my soul can exit my body and be reborn, the conditions required are extremely harsh. My strength will also be greatly reduced, and I may no longer be able to control the power at hand. So, if possible, of course I hope that I can continue to live in this body. Little girl, thank you for keeping it a secret from me. Hishi smiled lightly, I'm just not interested in other people's secrets. As she spoke, she sutured the last wood, and a full head reappeared before her eyes. Although there were hideous scars and all the hair was shaved, it was indeed a complete brain. Venerable Huiyi in the air took a deep breath. He looked at his body with trembling excitement. Is the surgery over? I recovered? I can feel my aura circulating smoothly in my brain. Hishi let out a long sigh of relief. only to feel that her hands and feet were soft. She almost fell to the ground. Such a major surgery was really not done by a person. However, it was finally over. She smirked and said slowly, "The surgery is successful." In the Beijing pavilion, the huge long sword with whistling black flames was about to hit. Many people in the barrier closed their eyes in horror. Bang! The black flames hit the barrier. The terrifying energy collision emitted a dazzling light. Chapter 1334. Dead? Even the students of Miracle Healer Academy were attracted by the loud noise and light, and they gathered outside the barrier of the Beijing pavilion to check it out. Xue Sha manipulated his flying sword and the black flame. Feeling the black flame swallowing the energy, he revealed a cheerful smile. Endless black flame can swallow anything. Just a moment later, the Beijing pavilion will be reduced to ashes. And that old fool Huiyu will also become a pile of dead bones. However, Xue Sha's laughter just lasted for a few seconds, then he was startled. The black flame was swallowing the spiritual power slowly on the barrier of the Beijing pavilion. But what was shocking was that the speed of this devouring was far less fast than Xue Sha imagined. After a closer look, one would find that every time the black flame devoured part of the spiritual power of the barrier, the 9 runes would flash repeatedly. Immediately afterward, all the spiritual power and energy would converge toward the runes, and the energy of the barrier was finally replenished. Wei Qingyuan's face was full of shock and admiration. There was fascination in his eyes. He mumbled, "So this is Tiangang Array, this is Tiangang Array. Take the spirit of heaven and earth, gather the essence of all things, and is inexhaustible. The Tiangang aura will last forever." Wei Jianxing and others were overjoyed when they saw this, and they increased the spiritual power output in their hands again. Although the Beijing pavilion's barrier was still being worn, it was far below the original speed and below their tolerance range. And Venerable Huiyu's surgery had been going on for more than an hour. As long as they persisted a little longer, his honor would be able to come out. By the time, what should they be afraid of? Wei Jianxing and others were spirited, but Xue Sha was full of disbelief. He didn't believe that someone in this mere Miluo continent could resist the devouring ability of endless black flame. What Tiangang Array? I have never even heard of it. How can it be so powerful? Xue Sha stared at Nangong Yu below, raised his voice and shouted sharply again, "Who are you exactly? Do you know who I'm? Go against us, you know what will happen to you?" This time, Nangong Yu finally raised his head. He glanced at Xue Sha casually and sneered, "I never care about the identity of the dead." Dead? Xue Sha's face was distorted. At this moment, compared to Wei Jianxing, he suddenly wanted to smash this ignorant boy into 10,000 pieces. Do you think you can be safe by hiding in a shitty array? Just wait, I'll break your turtle shell now, so you can die in the most horrible way. Saying that, Xue Sha's eyes became red. He bit his tongue and spat blood at the giant sword from a distance. The black flames burned even wilder after contacting the blood on the tip of Xue Sha's tongue. The energy of the barrier, which wasn't exhausted much, also began to drain away frantically. Xue Sha's face turned pale. And the blood on the tip of one's tongue was the essence of a person. He just spouted so much, which was equivalent to losing a lot of his cultivation. In addition to this endless black flame, with his current cultivation he could control it. Therefore, in order to kill Venerable Huiyu, he had paid a big price. But in any case, he must complete the mission by Venerable and Yi, and he must also smash all the scumbags below to ashes in order to relieve the hatred in his heart. Poof! Chapter 1335. Never give up. As the barrier's energy was swallowed up by the black flames, someone in the Beijing pavilion finally couldn't hold it back and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, even though their faces were pale and their dantians were almost drained, they still held on desperately. Because they knew that if they backed off, their master's life would be threatened. Wei Jianxing's mouth also began to overflow with blood, but he gritted his teeth tightly and said solemnly, 15 minutes, at most 15 minutes, She will be able to save his honor. We must hold on. In fact, Wei Jianxing didn't even know if she used surgery would be successful or not, and when exactly his honor would come out. However, they all knew that they couldn't retreat, even if they were going to die. Nangong Yu's eyes swept across the few people who were exhausted, and the black spiritual power was absorbed back into his fingertips. He was hesitating whether to use the dark spiritual power. Although if he could use the dark spiritual power to devour the endless black flame, this would expose his identity. By then, it would be troublesome for him to stay in the Miracle Healer Academy to protect Shir. Moreover, this would also lead to a series of troubles. Suddenly, Nangong Yu sensed something and looked back with a gentle and doting smile on his face. At the same time, someone finally couldn't hold it any longer and passed out. Xue Sha and his men let out a cheer and swarmed toward the opening of the barrier. Xue Sha laughed wildly, "Kill all these scums." Wei Jianxing and the others were full of despair. Now that their spiritual power was exhausted one by one, even if they wanted to forcibly dispel the seal in them, they could no longer do it. Are we really going to die here? Is his honor really doomed? Seeing that Xue Sha's long sword wrapped in black flames was about to hit them, Wei Jianxing and the others closed their eyes in despair. But the next moment, they felt a familiar aura coming toward them. If Xue Sha's black flames could devour everything, then this aura was the cold that froze everything, but the cold was mixed with vitality. The drained dantians of Wei Jianxing and others were fully replenished instantly. The meridians that were originally painful due to the exhaustion of spiritual power were also healed under the comfort of this spiritual power. Wei Jianxing suddenly opened his eyes and looked behind him in disbelief. Everyone who fell on the ground turned around. Then they saw a man in a green robe and a crown on his head, slowly walking out of the palace. Wei Jianxing's eyes instantly became wet. He shouted in a hoarse voice, "His honor, are you healed?" The sound of Wei Jianxing brought tears to the eyes of the 8 guardians of Venerable Huiyu. Yan Xiao, who had the most honest temperament, burst into tears on the spot. "His honor, it's great that you are still alive." Venerable Huiyu looked at their battered looks and the blood on their mouths, and his heart was filled with warmth and emotion. Although Dr. Min's betrayal disheartened him, these subordinates never left him when he was in the greatest danger. They even risked their lives to protect him. These people are the best. Chapter 1336. Die with no corpse. A soft smile appeared on Venerable Huiyu's face. He glanced at Wei Jianxing and others one by one. When he finally looked at Xue Sha, who looked sluggish and panicked, the soft smile turned into tyrannical cold malice. Xue Sha's subordinates were even more shocked when they saw Venerable Huiyu. They all trembled with fright. Suddenly, someone screamed in surprise and fled. Immediately, someone followed frantically, no longer caring about any orders and missions. Venerable Huiyu sneered and waved his hand. An icy aura condensed into tens of millions of sharp blades and flew toward the fleeing people. Xue Sha originally wanted to escape, but when he saw this person, his feet seemed to be petrified and he couldn't move. There was an overwhelming fear in his heart. The next moment, he did see a scene that made him terrified and desperate. Those of his subordinates wanted to escape, but they couldn't, of course. Venerable Huiyu's sharp blades hit them mercilessly, but Xue Sha didn't hear their screams. What he heard were the crackling sounds as the subordinates were turned into ice sculptures in an instant. In just a second, those ice sculptures shattered and turned into little ice fragments, floating in air. Their souls and corpses were deleted. Xue Sha only felt that the blood all over her body was cold. He couldn't even utter a word. His rigid gaze fell on Venerable Huiyu's face. His face was radiant and no longer had the pain and depression tormented by the illness. What remained was the majesty and power of the superior. Venerable Huiyu, he is healed. No, it's not. He even becomes stronger than ever. Xue Sha was completely despairing. He even felt that Venerable and Yi couldn't match him at all. However, how is this possible? Venerable Huiyu's illness was sentenced to death in the Siam continent long ago. How could anyone be able to cure him? Xue Sha retreated step by step. The hand behind his back secretly activated the random teleportation array, and he said with a trembling voice, "Venerable Hui Yu, I'm just here to visit you on the order of Venerable and Yi. If you kill it, Venerable and Yi will definitely know. I believe you don't want to directly go hostile with Venerable and Yi so quickly, do you?" As he kept talking, the teleportation array hidden behind his back also quickly activated. Feeling the energy spread from the teleportation talisman, Xue Sha was overjoyed. His face showed a bit of a different expression. However, before Xue Sha's smile spread in his eyes, Venerable Hui Yu sneered and waved his hand lightly. The next moment, Xue Sha had a terrified look on his face. His mouth was wide open, but before he could make a sound, his entire body had already burst open with a bang. There was not even a drop of blood. He was also turned into ice fragments. Everyone present was stunned by this scene. Xue Sha was at least at the early stage of the soul-splitting stage, but Venerable Hui Yu could exterminate him within a second. The most shocking and horrifying of all were definitely the golden masked man and others in the Mojing Pavilion. They thought they would wait for the news of Venerable Hui Yu's death, but who knew that he actually recovered? Elder Fei's eyes were filled with fear and joy. He looked coldly at Lu Shuyang, who had lost his soul, and sneered, "President Lu, didn't you say that Venerable Hui Yu will definitely die? Didn't you say that Shiyu's medical skills are just so-so? What's going on now?" Venerable Hui Yu has not only recovered, but his cultivation is a little higher than before. Chapter 1337. Unreasonable. That's what you guarantee there is absolutely no one better than your medical skills in the Miluo continent? Lu Shuyang's face was pale. His eyes flashed with a cold light, and he stared straight at the young man who was following behind Venerable Hui Yu in the distance. The young man standing there had a beautiful and unparalleled face. His expression was indifferent, as if nothing could move him. Lu Shuyang couldn't suppress the flame of jealousy growing in his body. He is only a boy of 17 years old, but he even cured a terminal illness that I thought could not be cured. Such a talent, such an ability, why don't they belong to me? The most unbearable thing for Lu Shuyang was that the golden masked man and others who originally valued him and believed in him also looked at him gloomily at this time, as if they were looking at a useless waste. The position that he had worked so hard to earn was completely ruined. Lu Shuyang gritted his teeth with hatred, but he forced himself to endure it. He put up a lonely and guilty look as he said, "I'm sorry to disappoint, sir, with my poor medical skills. But that Shiyu is young, it's impossible for him to have such superb medical skills. I wonder if he has some kind of treasure on him." The golden masked man's eyes flashed. His cold eyes swept over the young man behind Venerable Hui Yu, then he frowned. "Now that kid is favored by Hui Yu, we can't touch him. However, we must find a way to get him to our side. If he doesn't want to, destroy him completely." Elder Fei, who was standing on the side, quickly bowed after hearing the words, "Yes, sir." Having said that, Venerable Hui Yu looked over with sarcasm and coldness. Even the golden masked man felt intimidated against Venerable Hui Yu like this. But he wasn't afraid. Venerable Hui Yu had an agreement with his master that he would never attack them in the lower realm. It's just that Venerable Hui Yu has recovered and now knows the truth, so he definitely won't let it go. I should hurry back and report this. Thinking of this, the golden masked man waved his hand to set up the barrier that isolated the two pavilions. When Wei Jianxing and the others saw them leave, they immediately said angrily, "His Honor, do you just let these guys go? Especially that Lu Shuyang, he actually defected to their side and secretly harmed his honor. How can we allow such a scum to live?" Venerable Hui Yu sneered, "Don't worry, as long as I'm healed, how much time do you think they have?" When everyone heard this, they were overjoyed. Uncle Chiu looked at Venerable Hui Yu with tears and said excitedly, "His Honor, are you really cured? Will your illness recur?" Venerable Hui Yu smiled slightly and did not speak, but he looked at Heshi. Immediately afterward, everyone's eyes fell on Heshi. They stared at her with excitement and nervousness as if she didn't speak. They would open her mouth and dig the answer out of it. Heshi smiled slightly. There was no excitement on her face. The surgery is a success. There are no sequelae. Ray? Really? Yen Xiao was the first to shout. His rough voice carried a sobbing tone. You? No, no, miracle healer you mean that his honor will never be sick again? Will he live forever? Heshi shrugged. If he lives long enough, I think he can live forever. Chapter 1338. First, as soon as Heshi said this, everyone immediately cheered excitedly. Although they already knew the answer just now, they couldn't help but be ecstatic when it was confirmed at this moment. Uncle Chiu and the others even had red eyes and kept thanking Heshi. Yen Xiao shouted excitedly with his hoarse voice, "Haha, those scums were really so arrogant. Now it's good. Dare to plot against us? I will go and get rid of them when we return." Wei Jianxing suppressed his excitement and asked Venerable Hui Yu, "His honor, now that your illness has recovered, are we going back to the Siam continent?" Venerable Hui Yu nodded with a contemptuous smile on his face. "Of course, we have to go back. Maybe I'm away for so long that they forget about my existence. Hee, it's time to go back and clean up the Divine Moon Palace." With a wave of his hand, Wei Jianxing and the others lit up with a dazzling light. Immediately afterward, Heshi was surprised to find that the aura of these people had changed. Their bodies naturally exuded a strong coercion. Even Heshi was always calm, she couldn't help but be slightly surprised. Each of the 8 Venerable Hui Yu's guards has the strength of the soul-splitting stage. Wei Jianxing, who has the highest cultivation, is close to the intermediate stage of the soul-splitting stage. Such strength can completely dominate the entire Miluo continent. Wei Jianxing and others had even more surprises on their faces, and the depression that was originally suppressed by Xue Sha and others was instantly swept away. The 8 knelt down and kowtowed to Venerable Hui Yu. "Thanks his honor." The other guards and servants in the Beijing pavilion shivered because of the sudden pressure. Their eyes revealed an instinctive fear. Even Wei Chengyuan had to force himself to calm down so that he wouldn't lose his manner. The only person in the audience who was not affected was probably Nangongyu. Since Xue Sha was eliminated, he once again restrained his aura and stood quietly behind Heshi. He would grab her soft little hand from time to time and play gently. Even if Wei Jianxing and others recovered their strength, no one was aware of his existence. Venerable Hui Yu motioned for Wei Jianxing and others to get up, then he walked slowly to Heshi. His eyes swept around Nangongyu for a while before looking at Heshi again. "Shiyu, how can I thank you for your life-saving grace?" Heshi frowned slightly. She thought of Wu Qi in a coma. If I ask Venerable Hui Yu to get back Wu Qi's would Vitality Pearl or would Crystal, would it be feasible? Such thoughts swirled in her mind, but Heshi finally rejected them. Although Venerable Hui Yu is very powerful, it is not something that Elder Fei and the others can compete with, but from Venerable Hui Yu knowing that Lu Shuyang harmed him, but not being able to punish him at will, it seems that Elder Fei's side is not small. If I tell Venerable Hui Yu about Wu Qi's situation, what if Venerable Hui Yu wants to take Wu Qi away instead of saving him because he is a beast kin? Or even if Venerable Hui Yu is willing to save him, the people on the side of Elder Fei will simply destroy Wu Qi's would Vitality Pearl. At that time, Wu Qi is really beyond saving. Venerable Hui Yu saw Heshi frowning and hesitating, and he smiled slightly. "Shiyu, if you haven't thought about it, I can owe you first. When you know what you want, let the principal of Miracle Healer Academy to inform me. As long as I receive the news, I will definitely do it for you." Chapter 1339. Siam Continent. Venerable Hui Yu threw out a crystal clear, colorful and smooth token as he spoke. The words, Hui Yu, were engraved on the token. Just looking at it made people feel awe-inspiring. Heshi was slightly moved. Not to mention the meaning of the token itself seemed to be a rare treasure that Miluo continent could hardly see. Venerable Hui Yu said, "If one day, you come to Siam continent, as long as you take out this token, the people of Divine Moon Palace will unconditionally listen to your orders. Of course, once you use up this opportunity, the token will be taken back." Heshi nodded and smiled. She was very satisfied with the reward. However, what Heshi didn't see was that when the token entered the void, strands of strange white mist began to appear in the void of the Sumeru ring and wrap around the token. After a while, the white mist dissipated, and the token disappeared without a trace, as if nothing had happened. This change happened so quickly that even the little ones playing in the ancient rhyme spiritual field didn't notice at all. The only strange thing was that after the token disappeared, the ninth secluded spirit spring seemed to increase in volume again, and the spring water became clearer. It seemed to exude a faint fragrance. Heshi, who was outside the void, didn't know at all that the reward she finally got disappeared in the blink of an eye. Venerable Huiyu looked at Wei Chengyuan with a faint smile. "Boy of the Wei family, I will remember your achievements. This time it is thanks to you. If you hadn't found Shiyu, I'm afraid," Venerable Huiyu said gratefully to Wei Chengyuan, but his demeanor was aloof. There was a hint of natural majesty and nobility. But Wei Chengyuan didn't mind. He even bowed his head a little flattered. "His honor is giving me too much credit. It is a blessing to all of us that his honor can live well." Heshi raised her eyebrows slightly. Is this the innate sense of superiority that people from the upper realm have over people from the lower realm? She thought of the immortal Zijin in Sealed Dragon Domain's secret territory, the little golden dragon, and the carelessness of her master when playing with Heisha. All the people from the Siam continent had an arrogance imprinted in their bones toward the people from the Miluo continent. And the martial artists of the Miluo continent also had a natural yearning for the distant Siam continent. What kind of place is Siam continent? Under the order of Venerable Huiyu, Wei Jianxing praised the guards and servants in Beijing Pavilion one by one. Wei Jianxing gave them magic weapons of rank 7 and rank 8, and there were also many medicinal pills that everyone in Miluo continent was fighting for. In fact, these magic weapons and medicinal pills were useless to Wei Jianxing and the others. However, the guards and servants who got them burst into tears. Some even knelt down and kowtowed. Venerable Huiyu walked up to Heshi slowly, looking at her with a smile. It was just that there was no sense of superiority in this gaze, only the kindness of an elder. "Little girl, in fact, I plan to take you back to Siam continent together after you cured my illness." When Venerable Huiyu said these words, he set up a barrier around he and Heshi, so the others could not hear their conversation. But this did not include Nangongyu. Nangongyu frowned almost immediately, and a cold chill flickered in his eyes. Chapter 1340. Magical Beast Forest tripped this man called Sheer Little Girl, and he said he wanted to take Sheer away. Venerable Huiyu turned his eyes on Nangongyu at the right time. He smiled slightly. "However, when I see him, I know that you will not follow me, and I don't need me to take you to Siam continent." Nangongyu sneered. "That depends on whether you have the ability to take her away." Venerable Huiyu heard the words, but instead of being angry, he laughed out loud. After laughing for a while, his expression became solemn and his eyes looked complicated. "I seem to feel a powerful spiritual aura from you, but..." Heshi and Nangongyu glanced at each other, and they both saw doubts in each other's eyes. Heshi hurriedly asked, "But what?" A trace of solemnity and fear flashed in Venerable Huiyu's eyes, then he shook her head as if he wanted to shake off the strange thoughts. He said with a half-smile, "Little girl, you have a good eye for picking man. However, before you choose to marry this man, you should think about how to remove the cold poison in his body." After finishing speaking without waiting for Heshi's reaction, he waved to Wei Jianxing and others. As Wei Jianxing and others stood beside Venerable Huiyu formed a gesture with both hands, then a huge teleportation array appeared around them. With a flash of white light, Venerable Huiyu and others disappeared on the spot. At the same time, those powerful and dark auras in the Mojing Pavilion also disappeared. In the Dean Room of Miracle Healer Academy, Jean Liqing was holding the inscribed jade slip in his hand, pacing back and forth restlessly. Jean Liqing had been the Dean of Miracle Healer Academy for more than 20 years. During this period he had experienced countless ups and downs, but this was the first time he had the idea of resigning. Deputy Dean Jiang at the side was also affected by Jean Liqing's uneasiness. He asked nervously, "Dean, what happened really?" Jean Liqing stopped and looked at his friend, Deputy Dean Jiang, on the opposite with a hesitant expression. At this moment, a manservant's report suddenly came from outside the door. Dean, Doctors Association President Liu and several elders are asking to see you. Jean Liqing's expression froze, he frowned even tighter, and a gleam of coldness flashed across his eyes. He took a deep breath and said to the manservant, "Let them in." When Deputy Dean Jiang heard President Liu's name, he looked shocked. "I heard that President Liu was ordered to be killed by Venerable Hui Yu. How could he still have the guts to come to Miracle Healer Academy?" Jean Liqing sneered and said, "Because he knows that Venerable Hui Yu is busy dealing with the Dark Knight clan now, and he has Golden Wolf backing him up, so no one in the Miracle Healer Academy dares to touch him now." Deputy Dean Jiang frowned and said, "Isn't he afraid that Venerable Hui Yu will free up his matters and settle accounts with him?" Before Jean Liqing could answer, there was a knock on the door of the room, and then a middle-aged man came into the room with several old men who were over 100 years old. This middle-aged scribe was naturally Liu Shuyang. As soon as he entered Dean's room, he immediately bowed Jean Liqing with an indescribably graceful and humble manner, but there was an unconcealable arrogance in his eyes. "Dean Jean, long time no see." Jean Liqing said indifferently, "President Liu won't come here if there is nothing important. What's more, I heard that President Liu just ran away from Miracle Healer Academy in a hurry a few days ago, so why are you here again?" Liu Shuyang didn't look annoyed being ridiculed. He just smiled. "I'm here by the order of Sir Golden Wolf to ask Dean about the arrangement of the trip to the magical beast forest." Chapter 1341. Must die. After Jean Liqing heard the words, he said in a rage, "Liu Shuyang, are you all crazy? Magical beast forest? Even if the martial artists at the nascent soul stage enter, they will also face life danger. Now you actually want those students in the academy to hunt the magical beasts? Are you trying to kill all the students in the academy?" Liu Shuyang's expression was still indifferent and his smile was gentle, but it also looked extremely cruel. "Dean Jean is really funny. The Miracle Healer Academy was established by Lord and the others. These students may also be sent to Siam continent in the future. Why would Lord kill them? It's just..." Liu Shuyang paused, and the gentleness on his face turned into sarcasm. "The Lord is tolerant. He created the Miracle Healer Academy to train them, but it doesn't mean that they can be lazy and incompetent and don't want to pay back. This time, Lord needs a lot of beastkin cubs to improve his strength. It's time to temper these students and let them serve Lord." Jean Liqing burst into flames and said angrily, "Even if you want beastkin cubs, you can let the elders of the academy go. Why do you want to put the students of the academy in danger? Why don't you elders of the Doctors Association go?" Liu Shuyang raised his eyebrows and said with a leisurely smile, "Who said the elders of our Doctors Association won't go? The elders behind me will follow the students and elders of Miracle Healer Academy to the magical beast forest. Since Dean is worried that all the students in the academy will die, I have an idea." Liu Shuyang smiled and said slowly, "Each branch will send half of the students to the magical beast forest to hunt for beastkin. The branches, deans and elders, except for those who must stay behind, everyone else will go together. In this way, the safety of the students can always be guaranteed, right?" Jean Liqing also wanted to refute, "But we don't have a map of the magical beast forest, and we don't know the depth of it." Before Jean Liqing finished speaking, he was interrupted by the cold-faced Liu Shuyang. This time, there was no smile on his face. "Dean Jean, don't forget, my daughter Jishi is also going to the magical beast forest. Am I going to hurt my daughter? If Jean Dean is still unwilling to agree to this, then I can only report to Sir Golden Wolf. At that time, let alone whether Dean Jin's position can be maintained, how many of those branch deans can remain? And what will happen to your son in Siam continent? Dean Jean better think about it." Jean Liqing's face turned green and pale for a while, but in the end he could only compromise. He said resentfully, "I will post a notice for students above the intermediate stage of the Gold Core stage to go. Letting the students below the Gold Core stage go to the magical beast forest will only kill them." Liu Shuyang didn't disagree, but his eyes flashed with malicious intent. he said with a faint smile. Oh, right, I remember that there is a student named Shiyu in the Huang medical branch. Although he is only at the foundation establishment stage, his real strength can even defeat the intermediate stage of the gold core stage. And I heard that Shiyu's medical skills are also superb. Other students below the gold core stage can be spared, but this Shiyu, I think he must go, right? Jean Liqing's eyebrows twitched. He smelled a conspiracy from Lu Shuyang's words. However, Lu Shuyang's words were well-founded, so he couldn't refute it and could only bitterly agree. A satisfied smile appeared on Lu Shuyang's face, and a gloomy light flashed across his eyes. That young man whose talent and luck are thousands of times better than mine, so he must die. Chapter 1342. Fight. At this time, He was also very depressed. As Venerable Huiyu left, the people in the Mojing Pavilion also disappeared without a trace in an instant. Shi and Nangongyu searched the Mojing Pavilion upside down, but they couldn't find anything useful, let alone wood vitality pearl or wood crystal. If the wood vitality pearl belonging to Wu Qi cannot be found, it meant that Wu Qi couldn't be recovered. Even if Hishi's medical skills were superb, she was a little helpless in this situation. Seeing Shaoli suppressing her sadness and smiling to her, but she turned his back to secretly wipe away her tears, Hishi felt so sorry for the little fox. There was another thing that made her depressed. Hishi remembered throwing the jade token given by Venerable Huiyu into the void. However, after she searched the entire void, she couldn't find any trace of the jade token. Even Little Egg and the others don't see it. This is really strange. Nangongyu was very happy. Thinking of the old man who recognized Shier's identity as a woman and wanted to take Shier away, Nangongyu was very upset. He didn't want Shier to go to that old man again in the future. Now that the jade token was lost, it really suited his heart. As for the possibility that Shier would seek Venerable Huiyu for help in the future, Nangongyu crossed this possibility without hesitation. As long as he was by Shier's side, Shier didn't need to ask for help from anyone. She just had to rely on him. Of course, Nangongyu thought so in his heart, but he didn't show it on the surface. Instead, he comforted Hishi gently. When they returned to the dormitory from the Mojing Pavilion again, they saw Xian Mu's cold face. Xian Mu had disappeared since he was cured by Hishi that day. Hishi had long been accustomed to the disappearance of this roommate from time to time, so she didn't care at all. But Nangongyu has always been brooding over this matter, thinking that this person absolutely didn't have kind intention toward Shier. So for Shier's safety, he relied on his strong strength to avoid being discovered and stay in the Huang No. 1 dormitory. Hishi was not surprised to see Xian Mu. She examined him up and down, then he nodded and said, "It seems that you have fully recovered." Xian Mu nodded, but he looked at Nangongyu with cold eyes. "You? Get out." Nangongyu's eyes were piercing. He raised his eyebrows and sneered, "Who are you? You dare to order me?" Xian Mu's expression was still cold, but his aura suddenly rose. "This is the dormitory of Shiyu and I. You are not qualified." The aura erupting from Xian Mu's body was extremely terrifying, shaking everything in the entire dormitory slightly. Tong Bing, who rushed over, was caught by this aura and fell to the ground with a terrified expression. Nangongyu seemed unaware of this. He also exuded the same fierce aura. He said with killing intent, "Whether I'm qualified or not, it is not up to you. If I kill you, I'm qualified, right?" As soon as he said, they moved at the same time. Lights were intertwining in the dormitory, and the bed that Hishi had just found a manager to repair was crumbling again. The herbs on the shelf also fell off. Tong Bing ran over in a panic, grabbed Hishi's hand and shouted, "Brother Shiyu, why did they fight? Brother Xian Mu's injury has just healed, will he get hurt again? Can you tell them to stop?" Chapter 1343. Satisfied? Hishi looked impatiently at the two who were going to destroy the dormitory, and she said coldly, "If you want to fight, fight outside. Whoever destroys the things in the dormitory will pay 10 times the compensation. Also, if you like to demolish the house so much, then all of you should sleep in the yard at night." As soon as Hushi finished speaking, the two people who had been fighting quickly separated. They glared at each other. There seemed to be sparks between them. Nangongyu said coldly, "Go out?" Xian Mu accepted the challenge without hesitation, "Go." As soon as the words fell, they had disappeared from the dormitory. Tong Bing was dumbfounded for a moment. He looked at Heshi with a face full of disbelief. "Brother Shiyu, didn't I tell you to stop them? Why did you let them fight outside? Don't you worry that Brother Xian Mu will get hurt?" Heshi closed his eyes and entered into a cross-legged state. Hearing the words, he said indifferently, "Don't worry, they won't die. Even if they are half dead, I can still save them." After finishing speaking, Heshi no longer cared about Tong Bing and quickly entered the state of meditation. For some reason recently, she always felt that her stagnant cultivation was slowly advancing again. She seemed to be closer and closer to the real gold core stage. Heshi even felt that there was only a thin film separating her from the gold core stage, but she couldn't find a way to pierce the thin film for a while. Tong Bing watched Heshi indifferently closing her eyes and meditating, feeling only a burst of disappointment in his mind. He hurried to the door, staring at the dark night sky bewilderedly, looking forward to Xian Mu's safe return. How can Shiyu be so heartless? Xian Mu is his friend, but Shiyu doesn't care about Xian Mu's life at all. Even a bed in the dormitory is more important than Xian Mu in Shiyu's eyes. Shiyu had already treated Xian Mu so indifferently. Why does Xian Mu still treat Shiyu so well? Time passed second by second, and the night was getting darker and darker. Tong Bing's feet were getting more and more numb. He had been standing here for almost 2 hours. Suddenly, Hushi on the bed opened her eyes, staring at the front and slowly restraining the aura around her. The next moment, 2 figures suddenly appeared in the room. Seeing the two who had left for 2 hours, Hushi couldn't help laughing out loud. It was the first time she saw Nangongyu in such a mess. Although he wore a mask, even the mask couldn't hide the injuries on his face and hands. Even his clothes became tattered, revealing his half-naked chest and the tiny wounds inside. Compared with Nangongyu, Xian Mu's situation was not much better. Not only was his face bruised, his forehead was also bruised. His clothes were also torn, and there was a smell of blood. He was in such a mess as if he had just been beaten up. Hushi clenched a fist and pressed it to her lips to cough lightly to hold back a laugh. Then she jumped off the bed and asked loudly, "How? You two satisfied?" Neither of them spoke. Nangongyu hugged Hushi in his arms smoothly, bowed his head and kissed her on the cheek, then he smiled provocatively at Xian Mu. Chapter 1344. Let me see. Xian Mu looked at him with a cold gaze. He took out the medicine and applied by himself. Hushi unexpectedly found that the relationship between them seemed to be a little better than before. If the atmosphere was tense before they went out to fight, then, apart from still being hostile, they seemed to have appreciated each other a little more. Hushi smiled. She took out 2 porcelain bottles and threw them to Nangongyu and Xian Mu respectively. The external injury medicine in this porcelain bottle was refined with 9th secluded spirit spring. There was no external injury medicine in Miluo continent that was more effective than this. At this moment, Tong Bing, who was waiting at the door, finally came to his senses and realized that Xian Mu had returned. "Brother Xian Mu, you're injured." Tong Bing's eyes turned red. He felt his heart was being tightened, so he hurriedly rushed toward Xian Mu. "Oh my God, so many injuries. How could he be so cruel? How could he beat you like this?" Xian Mu frowned in disgust. He waved and threw Tong Bing out of the dormitory. When Tong Bing fell to the ground, he was dumbfounded. He wiped away his tears and rushed toward the dormitory. However, when he reached the door, he found that he was blocked by a powerful force. He could see the scene inside, but he couldn't get in. Tong Bing was going crazy. He hit the door frame and shouted loudly, "Brother Xian Mu, let me see your injury. Please let me in. Brother Shiyu, please let me in." However, Tong Bing didn't know that his voice had been isolated. No matter how loud he yelled, Xian Mu and Shiyu couldn't hear him. Nangongyu withdrew his cold eyes from the crying young man at the door, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. This young man who lived with Sheer looked very weak and useless, but when Nangongyu looked at him, he felt an ominous feeling in his heart. His existence will seem to bring disaster to Heshi one day. However, he is just a weakling like an ant. How could he threaten Sheer? Nangongyu was in a trance that when he applied the medicine, he accidentally tore his wound. The wound that had already stopped bleeding instantly bled profusely. Heshi's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't sit still any longer. She grabbed the medicine bottle in his hand and complained, "Why are you so careless? You can't even apply the medicine?" As Heshi spoke, she took out a cotton cloth, dipped it in spirit spring water and gently wiped off the blood on Nangongyu's wound. When she saw the hideous flesh, she couldn't help frowning and blowing gently before sprinkling the external injury medicine on it. Nangongyu felt the girl's slender and soft fingers and the warm breath with a delicate fragrance on his skin. His whole body became hot. There was a gentle smile in his eyes. The happiness almost overflowed from his eyes. Sure enough, my Sheer still cares about me the most. What Xian Mu, what little white face, they can't be compared with me at all. However, Nangongyu still put on an aggrieved expression on his face as if he was holding back the pain and said, "Sheer, it's okay, I'll do it myself. It was just because the wound on my back was painful, that's why I accidentally. The injury on your back is very painful." Heshi felt even more distressed and worried when she heard it. She quickly got up and said, "Let me take a look." The girl's face was full of worry and tension as if he was the only one left in the whole world. Chapter 1345. Tong Bing's resentment. Nangongyu smiled even more, and he still did not forget to show off to Xian Mu provocatively. Xian Mu snorted and wanted to ignore it, but he was really upset when he watched Shiyu carefully heal Nangongyu as if she had forgotten his own existence. For Nangongyu, he was disdainful and disgusted at the beginning. How could he put a lower realm martial artist into his eye? However, after they fought, they inexplicably appreciated each other. Xian Mu had been in Miluo continent for so many years, and he had long forgotten what it was like to have a hearty fight with someone. But in today's match with Nangongyu, both of them were content in the fight, which also made Xian Mu have a little admiration for Nangongyu. He grew up in Siam continent. Being able to achieve the current level of cultivation was already genius among the geniuses. And this man, whose age was younger than him, could have such strength. Even Xian Mu couldn't help but look at him differently. As a result, he couldn't beat Nangongyu to death and couldn't chase him away. He also felt very annoyed seeing him here. Xian Mu could only snort, picked up the external injury medicine Heshi gave him and walked out of the dormitory with a cold face. "Brother Xian Mu!" Tong Bing cried out in surprise when he saw Xian Mu coming out. He rushed over. Later, Tong Bing saw the loneliness on Xian Mu's face. He looked inside and saw that Heshi was treating her servant's injury intimately. Tong Bing suddenly realized something, and he quickly stepped forward and grabbed Xian Mu's sleeve, begging, "Brother Xian Mu, you are injured. If Shiyu doesn't apply the medicine for you, I will help you apply the medicine, okay? Whatever you want me to do, I'm willing to do it." Xian Mu turned to look at him. Tong Bing only felt that his heart was about to pop out of his chest. He looked obsessively at the man in front of him with scorching eyes. The disgust in Xian Mu's eyes was even more. He said coldly in a flat voice, "If Shiyu hadn't taken you in, you would have died 10,000 times already. Get lost." After speaking, his figure flickered and disappeared in place. Tong Bing's blood seemed to turn from boiling to freezing all of a sudden. He stood there blankly for a long time. Finally, he couldn't hold back the tears. Tong Bing stood for a long time, then he looked into the dormitory. The lights in the dormitory were warm and bright. Shiyu and her lover were cuddling each other as if there was no gap between them. However, such intimacy was gouging Xian Mu's heart. Tong Bing remembered that on the night when the Mojing Pavilion was stolen, he clearly saw Shiyu running to Xian Mu's bed, and she was still intimately close to him. But why did Shiyu hook up with another man after only a few days? Doesn't Shiyu know that brother Xian Mu will be sad if he does this? Or is Shiyu good at playing people's minds? "What about me? I'm so kind and dedicated to Brother Xianmu, but Brother Xianmu doesn't even bat an eye on me. Even allowing me to live in Huang number 1 dormitory is because of Shiyu. Just because of this flirtatious Shiyu? Tong Bing thought of Xianmu's last words, and the pain and sorrow in his eyes finally turned into a vague resentment. He was crying in a dark corner. Looking at Shiyu, who was smiling softly and sweetly under the light of the crystal stone, he mumbled, "Shiyu, it would be great if you disappear. Then, this place will belong to me and Brother Xianmu, and Brother Xianmu will not be sad anymore." Chapter 1346. Heshi's worry in the dormitory. Nangong Yu felt the fiery and sinister gaze. Then he turned his head. But there was only darkness in his eyes, and no figure was seen. As his divine sense spread, apart from Heshi and him in the entire dormitory, only the weakling boy curled up in his room and cried pitifully. Nangong Yu frowned. Am I really overthinking? After treating Nangong Yu's last wound, Heshi looked at his body covered with bandages and said with a frown, "Nangong Yu, it's almost 1 year." Nangong Yu was taken aback for a moment, then he immediately showed a wicked smile, hugged the girl into his arms, and whispered in her ear, "Yes, if Sheer didn't say it, I almost forgot about it. Unknowingly, we have known each other for almost a year, but Sheer, you have not become my wife. TSK, it seems that my efficiency is really too low." Heshi was originally full of sadness, but she was amused by his words. With a wave of her hand, the door of the dormitory closed immediately. Purple abyss vine began to spread in her own dormitory, isolating the outside world and the inner room. Heshi tapped his chest and said seriously, "Be serious, you know what I'm telling you." Nangong Yu grabbed her hand, leaned close to kiss her lips, and bit her jade-like finger. Then he said with burning eyes, "What else is more serious than Shia you marrying me?" Heshi felt that she was about to be defeated by this shameless man, so she pushed away his face in disgust, wiped her wet finger on her shirt and said, "Your sickness is about to trigger soon, but I don't know if the treatment last time will still be useful." Thinking of this, Heshi felt a little depressed. She had cured so many people. Even Venerable Hui Yu, who suffered from epilepsy and a brain tumor, could be treated successfully through surgery. But for Nangong Yu's illness, she was still helpless. During this year, Heshi also kept checking Nangong Yu's body. But she was shocked to find that the cold poison in Nangong Yu's body seemed to be alive. It memorized her own treatment plan and developed antibodies naturally. In other words, if Nangong Yu got sick again this year, the treatment method she used last year might not have the same effect. Similarly, although Nangong Yu suppressed the cold poison with the blazing sun heavenly flame in the flame cave every year, the cold poison in his body had become more and more resistant to the blazing sun heavenly flame. It was very likely that in another year or two, or even less than a year, Nangong Yu would suffer serious injury in the next trigger. Nangong Yu saw that the girl in his arms was frowning worriedly. He couldn't help hugging her and kissing. "Don't worry, I still want to marry you. How can I die so easily?" Heshi stretched out her hands and hugged him tightly. The uneasiness and fear in her heart gradually calmed down in the embrace. A year ago, she treated Nangong Yu's injury just to pay off the debt. But now, as long as she thought about losing this man, she would feel the heart-wrenching pain. Jade Fire Toad, is there any news yet? With the Jade Fire Toad, even if there is no way to completely eradicate the cold poison, Heshi was confident that it would be able to suppress the cold poison for at least 10 years. Chapter 1347. Notice Nangong Yu hugged her even tighter as if he wanted to integrate her into his flesh and blood. "Sheer, how can I die? If I'm dead, how can I protect you? How can I keep you by my side forever?" Half of the people from each branch go to the magical beast forest to hunt beastkin? Heshi looked up in surprise, showing an expression of disbelief. "Are you sure it's not the secret realm? It's not the Sun Moon Mountain Range? But the magical beast forest?" Jin Ziyu nodded solemnly. "This morning, this notice was sent to the entire college. Every branch is no exception, even including the elite Heaven Medical Branch. The elite Heaven Medical Branch referred to Lu Jishi and others who stood at the top of the entire Miracle Healer Academy. In order to allow them to grow and develop better, they were all taught by the elders alone. The resources they got were not comparable to ordinary students. Hashi frowned and said, "Apart from the students from the academy, is there anyone else going with me?" Jin Ziyu nodded and said, "The elders of Miracle Healer Academy, including most of the branch deans, will go. The Doctors Association will also send many doctors with advanced cultivation and superb medical skills. I also heard that some aristocratic families also send some elders to accompany them." Hashi tapped the table lightly. Qian Dezhuang, who was standing behind Jin Ziyu, shouted excitedly, "What are you afraid of? Isn't it just a magical beast forest? With Shiyu here, and boss has advanced to the gold core stage, even if it is a dragon's den, we can still venture in." Jin Ziyu glared at him and said in a deep voice, "Dezhuang, don't talk nonsense. You don't understand the horror of the magical beast forest at all. Not to mention us students, even the elders in the academy dare not to go deep." Chen Xiaofeng also nodded and said, "I have heard that in the deepest part of the magical beast forest, the beastkin level there has already exceeded rank 10. It is almost a godlike existence. Its cultivation level is even more terrifying than the soul-splitting stage. If we really come across such a beastkin, even if our entire Miracle Healer Academy students are added up, we won't be able to stop the random attack of the opponent." Qian Dezhuang and the others were frightened at once, and they were speechless for a while. Heshi glanced at Nangong Yu, received his deep gaze, paused and said, "You don't have to worry too much. Everyone knows the danger of the magical beast forest. Since the academy let us hunt beastkin cubs, then it means that we don't need to go deep into the magical beast forest. We only need to hunt in the peripheral areas. That way the danger will be much lower." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they heard the words. Since Shiyu said there was no need to worry, then there must be no need to worry. Those of Huang Medical Branch already had a deep instinctive trust in Heshi. "You go to the square to gather first, I will come over in a while." Seeing that everyone went out, Jin Ziyu stayed behind. Jin Ziyu's current injury had been completely healed by Heshi. After a period of training and taking medicinal pills, his cultivation had broken through the gold core stage. He was about to reach the peak of his original cultivation. Jin Ziyu had always been a restrained person who talked with his actions, but from the moment he recovered from his injury, he had completely regarded Shiyu as his master. He swore to be loyal to her for the rest of his life. Chapter 1348. What did you see seeing him staying? Heshi's heart moved slightly. She already guessed what he was going to say. Jin Ziyu said, "Shiyu, there is something I want to tell you alone." Heshi raised his eyebrows and said, "Is it about the reason you were injured that year?" Jin Ziyu nodded, then he looked at Nangong Yu who was sitting next to Shiyu. Seeing this, his heart couldn't help beating violently. They had been in this room for a long time, and this man was standing beside Shiyu. But none of them noticed his existence. Even up to this moment, he wanted to tell Shiyu the secret alone, but the moment before he spoke, he almost ignored that there was this strange man by her side. Seeing Jin Ziyu looking at Nangong Yu, Heshi understood. She said calmly, "It's fine. He is my people, so just say what you have to say." Nangong Yu, who was labeled as her own people, felt very delighted. He grabbed Heshi's little hand and squeezed it gently. Seeing that Shiyu said so, Jin Ziyu no longer hesitated. Finally, he revealed the secret that had been hidden in his heart for several years. A few years ago, Jin Ziyu just became the president of the Academy Student Council. He had outstanding talent at a young age, and he had been favored by many elders and deans. He always wanted to make the academy better. He even kept fantasizing about the days when he was chosen to enter the Siam continent. When Jin Ziyu talked about this past, his expression was very calm as if he was telling someone else's story. Because I was the president of the Academy Student Council, I was able to freely enter and leave most places in the academy, including many forbidden places today. One night, when I was cultivating on the back mountain, I saw a lot of strange men in black entering the direction of the current Beijing pavilion. At that time, I was very curious and young, so I followed behind them. When Jin Zhu said this, he showed obvious fear and horror on his face. He asked, "What did you see?" "I saw a person who should not have appeared in Miracle Healer Academy." Jin Zhu's voice was hoarse, trying to suppress the trembling. "That was a candidate who took the academy assessment in the same year as me, but, in the first round after the spiritual root test, he disappeared. And all of us thought he was too sad to be eliminated, so he went home." Heshi's breathing was stagnant, and her eyes widened slightly. Jin Zhu's words made her think of something. Jin Zhu continued, "Besides the examinee I knew, there was also a beastkin who was unconscious beside him. I saw an old man with a white beard put them on an altar and kept channeling the array. Then the examinee and the beastkin showed painful expressions. Finally, a light green crystal stone condensed from the beastkin's body." Heshi and Nangong Yu looked at each other, and they each saw the surprise in each other's eyes. It turns out that the extraction of wood vitality pearls started so many years ago. So how many beastkins did they kill in order to extract wood vitality pearl? How many spiritual root martial artists were captured? Jin Zhu took a deep breath, clasped his hands tightly on the chair, and said in a hoarse voice, "Seeing beastkin roaring in pain and the candidate who was at the same age as me was also half dead, I felt uneasy and wanted to escape. Who knows, I saw a person at that moment." Without waiting for Heshi to ask, Jin Zhu continued, "It's the president of the Doctors Association, Lu Xiang." Chapter 1349. Strange Lu Xiang. Heshi frowned and said slowly, "Lu Xiang?" Jin Zhu nodded. Lu Xiang checked that candidate and said, "This person has no wood spiritual power on him, so he is already useless." After that, he grabbed the examinee's danton. Then he was turned into an old and ugly mummy in an instant. Heshi didn't respond yet, but Nangong Yu immediately looked serious, grabbed Heshi's hand, and said in a deep voice, "Are you sure he turned the examinee into a mummy instead of just poaching his dantian?" Jin Zhu closed his eyes, suppressed the fear in his mind and said, "I will never forget the scene I saw with my own eyes. At that time, my heart was full of fear, but I didn't dare to move at all." Then I heard the white-bearded old man say to Lu Xiang, "It seems that among all the people with wood spiritual root, only President Lu is the most powerful. Not only are you not dead after your wood spiritual root got extracted, but you even devour the beastkin's vitality in the processing of condensing yuan crystal. Now you even have the ability to detect spiritual roots and devour people's cultivation. This is a blessing in disguise. Even I'm jealous of you." As soon as Jin Zhu said this, Nangong Yu's expression changed. His hand holding around Heshi's tightened slightly, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes as if he was afraid that someone else would take her away. Heshi was also shocked. She didn't expect that Lu Xiang was also the one whose wood spiritual root got extracted. However, Lu Xiang not only didn't die of wood spiritual root extraction, but he also devoured the beastkin vitality. Moreover, he now had the ability to devour other people's cultivation and detect the spiritual root. What was even more frightening was that Lu Xiang should hate Elder Fei and the group because of this, but now he was able to serve them wholeheartedly. For the first time, Heshi felt real fear of a person. This Lu Xiang's scheming and ruthlessness really moved her. Heshi took a deep breath, suppressed the shock in her heart and looked at Jin Zhu. "Did you escape that night?" Jin Zhu nodded. Then he shook his head bitterly. "I escaped, but you can also say I didn't. At that time, I didn't dare to move at all. I kept watching them use that bloody and cruel array to extract the wood spiritual root martial artists and beastkins one by one to do the light green crystal stones or beads. Until the last beastkin, that beastkin was very strong. He suddenly woke up and blew himself up while being extracted. Lu Xiang and the others panicked for a while, and I took the opportunity to escape." Heshi raised her eyebrows. "Since you escaped?" There was a painful look in Jin Zhu's eyes. "When the beastkin exploded, a green bead splashed on my body, and I took that bead away before I had time to think about it." It was because of the pearl that Lu Shuyang discovered my whereabouts that night. He seemed to have a way to find the trace of this peel. Although I kept it inside a jade box that can isolate divine sense, but Lu Shuyang still discovered the aura on me. With that said, Jin Zhu took out a jade box from the storage bag and opened it. He saw a crystal-clear emerald green bead inside. As soon as she held the bead in her hand, she felt a powerful vitality rush toward her. Jin Zhu said, I kept this bead all the time, hoping to expose Lu Shuyang's conspiracy one day, but now it seems that I can't do it myself. Chapter 1350. Lu family's father and daughter. He squinted and said, Can you give this to me? Of course. Jin Zhu was stunned for a moment, then he immediately said, It's just that if you are contaminated with the aura of this bead, you will be easily discovered by Lu Shuyang. I'm afraid it will bring you trouble. He sneered, Even if I don't have the wood vitality pearl, the father and daughter will still come to trouble me. Only then did Jin Zhu heave a sigh of relief, then a gleam of hope appeared in his eyes. In this life, it is impossible for me to fight against Lu Shuyang and his daughter, let alone revenge, but maybe, you can. Maybe, I can wait until the day when I see the death of my enemy? He put the wood vitality pearl into the void and looked at Jin Zhu again. After Lu Shuyang found out about you, he didn't kill you? Jin Zhu shook his head with a wry smile, and his eyes were filled with deep hatred. He can't confirm that I broke into the forbidden area that day, and the Deans had always regarded me highly, so he dared not hurt me openly. But he let people stab me in the back when I was on a mission. When I came back from the heaven-level mission, half of my brothers were dead, and my cultivation had almost completely gone. I was kicked out of Heaven Medical Branch by him, but just like this, the Lu family father and daughter still refused to let me go. They asked the doctors to give me an addictive drug, which poisoned and killed me bit by bit. If I didn't encounter you, Shiyu, I'm afraid I would be dead in less than half a year. Jin Zhu's voice was hoarse and distorted with anger and pain. He stood up suddenly, knelt down on one knee, bowed toward He and said, Shiyu, I said that as long as you cure me, you will be my master. From now on, no matter what you ask me to do, I, Jin Zhu, will never frown. However, if one day you deal with Lu Zhishi and Lu Shuyang, please give me a chance to let them taste the pain I have suffered. It was Lu Zhishi who framed you? Jin Zhu sneered and said, She always looks like a lofty goddess as if her hands are never stained with blood, but I know that everything I suffered was manipulated by her behind the scenes. Don't mention me, she could even give up and trample Caillou who was devoted to her. From this, you know how vicious and ruthless she is. Shiyu, you must be careful of her. She wants to kill you not once or twice. This time going to the magical beast forest is the best opportunity. I don't believe that she will not take this opportunity to attack you. Nangong Yu's eyes turned cold, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. When I was not around, someone tried to put Sheer to death again and again. Lu Zhishi? Is she tired of living? After Jin Zhu told the secrets of the year, he went to the square. However, Nangong Yu grabbed He and stroked her cheek with one hand. His voice was gentle, but his expression was extremely dignified. Sheer, Lu Shuyang's ability to devour Beastkin's vitality is terrifying. Remember, you must be careful with him. You absolutely must not use any wood spiritual power around him. He frowned and said, Is there really anyone who can devour the vitality of a beastkin? If they could devour the vitality of a beastkin, wouldn't many people do that? After all, the vitality of a beastkin is so powerful and it can be transformed into different abilities. Chapter 1351. Narrow escape. Nangong Yu sneered and said with deep eyes, You think it is so easy to devour the vitality of beastkin? Beastkin's vitality and soul are stronger than humans. Even if humans are 4 levels higher than beastkins, they may not be able to swallow it. If they do it by force, it will only destroy their bodies. Otherwise, with the greed of many people, how can they not covet such benefits? Unless what? Unless that beastkin trusts this person very much, and it even has the good intention of using its own vitality to heal the person's wounds and maintain his life at the beginning. At this time, if this person tries to ruthlessly devour the beastkin's vitality at the cost of his own cultivation, it may be possible. However, in this way, that beastkin with good intentions will end up in an extremely miserable end. Hashi took a deep breath. Requite kindness with enmity? That's right. Nangong Yu sneered. It's simply ungrateful and cruel. So Shiyu must be careful when facing person like Lu Xiang. Hashi nodded with a cold gleam in her eyes. Then, some important information flashed across her mind, but it was just a glimpse. She couldn't grasp it anymore. By the time Hashi and Nangong Yu arrived at the square, almost all the people from the other branches had already arrived. This time, it wasn't just the students who came, almost 90% of the academy's deans and elders appeared on the square. Moreover, Hashi also saw Zheng Shouyue, who was standing in front of him and the others, with a livid complexion and wounds on his body. Seeing Shiyu, Zheng Shouyue showed a trace of guilt and worry on his face. He stepped forward and said in a hoarse voice, "Shiyu, when you arrive at the magical beast forest, you must follow me and don't run around." Hashi nodded, then she frowned and said, "Dean, your injury?" "It's nothing, just a minor injury." Zheng Shouyue said indifferently, "All the deans disagree with you all going to the magical beast forest for training, but the academy insists on this decision, and those bastards in the Mojing Pavilion." Having said that, Zheng Shouyue's voice stopped. He gritted his teeth to calm the anger in his heart. "In short, it has become a fact for you to go to the magical beast forest, but Shiyu, your cultivation is only at the foundation establishment stage. Why don't you stay in the academy?" As Zheng Shouyue was talking, Deputy Dean Jiang suddenly said from above, "Everyone, please listen to me. Most of you must already know the reason why you are gathered here today. That is to go to the magical beast forest for training." As soon as the words, "magical beast forest," came out, even those who knew the truth a long time ago were in an uproar. That is the magical beast forest known as the human grave. Even the martial artists at the nascent soul stage could die in it. Let alone these low-level students. Deputy Dean Zhang's eyes were full of worry and panic, but the man in black next to him stepped forward and glanced at him coldly. He could only take a deep breath and continued, "This time, the training will be recorded in your assessment results this year. During the training process in the magical beast forest, whoever can capture the beastkin cubs alive will be directly promoted to the high-level academy and rewarded with 10,000 points. Those who perform particularly well will receive the slot of going to the Siam continent." As soon as these words were said, half of the originally worried people became excited and eager to try. Chapter 1352, Voluntary Registration. These students are only under 30 years old, and most of them were inexperienced. They had always only heard about the horror of the magical beast forest, but they had not really realized the horror of this mission. Now that they heard that capturing beastkin cubs alive would bring so many benefits, they had long forgotten about the danger. Deputy Dean Jiang continued, "Besides, sending everyone to the magical beast forest is not disregarding everyone's safety. Deans from our 8 branches and several nascent soul elders from the academy will go with you. There are also several senior doctors from the Doctors Association. The academy will do everything possible to ensure everyone's safety." This time, even the remaining half of the worried people were a little eager to try. But they didn't see the pitiful and mocking eyes of the man in black above. Deputy Dean Jiang breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. This training is a compulsory mission. Half of the people in each branch must go. Students above the Gold Core stage intermediate stage are not allowed to evade, otherwise they will be expelled from the academy. The remaining insufficient slots will be made up according to the power ranking. Of course, we also welcome those who voluntarily sign up. All voluntary sign-ups, regardless of the final experience results, will receive an additional reward of 500 points. Okay, next, each branch will compile the list of participants. We will set off tomorrow by 7 a.m. 7 a.m.? Heshi's eyes were full of astonishment. Isn't this too rush? It's like they can't wait to send all the students to the magical beast forest. Heshi was thinking, then Qian Dazhuang's voice came. Shiyu, shall we participate? Heshi turned around, raised her eyebrows and said, of course. Wu Qi was now in a coma. If she wanted to cure him, apart from retrieving Wu Qi's wood vitality pearl, the most likely way to find a way might be in the magical beast forest. She could take the opportunity to check it out. Qian Dazhuang and others laughed immediately after hearing the words. Great, she will participate, then we will also volunteer to sign up. In fact, Qian Dazhuang, Jin Ziyu and others were all at the gold core stage. In addition, there were few people in Huang Medical Branch, and there were very few gold core stage. They must participate whether they volunteered or not. But when they heard that Shiyu was going together, they suddenly felt relieved. Even Zhang Yi and Fang Yun, who had a lower level of cultivation, asked to sign up one after another. Zheng Shouyue had been worried about what to do. If the students resisted, did he really have to kick them out? But unexpectedly, in the end, just because Shiyu said that she would go, more than half of the people in Huang Medical Branch wanted to sign up voluntarily. Great, I was worried about the danger of the magical beast forest just now. Now that Shiyu is going too, I don't worry anymore. That's right. Shiyu led Qian Dazhuang and a group of trash by herself back then to complete the heaven-level mission with ease. Even the magical beast forest is nothing to be afraid of. Damn, who are you calling trash? I'll beat you up. Haha, Dazhuang, don't even think of bullying me with your gold core stage. I took the medicinal pills given by Shiyu, plus this short period of training, I have now reached the pseudo-gold core stage. After a while, I'm not afraid of you anymore. Different from the fearful and intriguing atmosphere of other branches, the Huang Medical Branch was full of laughter. Chapter 1353. Good, very good. Zheng Shouyue stared blankly at the boys and girls laughing and cursing around Shiyu. He couldn't believe that they were students from his own branch. Once upon a time, these people were dispirited, cowardly, and humble. They only wanted to escape when they encountered danger. When they saw the students in other branches, they were resentful and felt inferior. But now, in just a few months, they had undergone such a big change. And all of this was just because of Shiyu. Zheng Shouyue was in a daze when suddenly a man's deep and cold voice came into his ears. I'll join too. Zheng Shouyue was startled by the sudden sound. When he turned around and saw the person who spoke, he was so frightened that he jumped back several meters before exclaiming, Xian? Xian Mu? That's right, the man in front of him was dressed in a black robe, his eyes were cold, and his stern face was expressionless. He was none other than Xian Mu from the Huang Medical Branch. Although Zheng Shouyue was a dean of Huang Medical Branch, he knew better than anyone else that Xian Mu's cultivation level was far higher than him. And his identity was even more terrifying. Zheng Shouyue took a deep breath and asked a little stammeringly, Student Xian Mu, what did you just say? Xian Mu frowned, looking annoyed. He didn't want to talk more. As he looked at Shiyu, there was an imperceptible wave in his eyes, which seemed gentle and moved. Xian Mu smelled a conspiracy from the arrangement of the Miracle Healer Academy. He never wanted to be related to someone else, but this time, for the first time, he did not want anything to go wrong with Shiyu. He wanted to protect her by his side. Nangong Yu, who was standing behind Heshi, knew his intention immediately. He glared at him. Sheer is mine, so I will protect her. I don't need you to meddle in my business. Xian Mu sneered, none of your business. Seeing that Xian Mu didn't speak, Zheng Shouyue was about to ask again tremblingly, then Qian Dazhuang, who was relatively heartless, yelled, Dean Zheng, didn't you hear? Xian Mu is also going to the magical beast forest. Ha, with Master Xian Mu here, what magical beast are we afraid of? Zheng Shouyue still couldn't react to it, but after all, he was a nascent soul expert and a branch dean. His expression and voice quickly recovered from the shock. Xian Mu, don't you never participate in the activities of the academy? Xian Mu squinted with a hint of impatience. Qian Dazhuang laughed heartlessly and said, Isn't it obvious? Master Xian Mu is worried about Shiyu's safety. Isn't that right, Senior Xian? Zhang Yi on the side also said in a childlike manner, Senior Xian Mu has always taken good care of Brother Shiyu. In the past, Senior Xian Mu never let other people live in Huang No. 1 dormitory, but not Brother Shiyu. Last time, Senior Xian Mu stopped those villains from capturing Brother Shiyu. The magical beast forest is so dangerous this time. Of course Senior Xian Mu will follow. Nangong Yu gritted his teeth. Good, very good. If this man with bad intentions is allowed to get close to Shier again, my name will not be Nangong Yu. He held Heshi firmly with one arm, showing his sovereignty. Heshi was dumbfounded. These people are really imaginative. At this time, Zheng Shouyue also remembered the scene of the theft of the Mojing Pavilion, and he immediately accepted this explanation very happily. Indeed, with Xian Mu present, the safety of the Huang medical branch was guaranteed by 50% more. Chapter 1354. Stupid. However, at this time, a person shouted in a panic, Brother Xian Mu, why are you going? Don't you know that the magical beast forest is very dangerous? Can you and Brother Shiyu don't go, okay? The young man's face was pale. His eyes were filled with real panic and worry. He rushed over in a hurry and wanted to grab Xian Mu's sleeve to stop him. The original harmonious and cheerful atmosphere of Huang Medical Branch was instantly destroyed. Everyone looked at the inexplicably disruptive person with subtle expressions. Many whispered mockingly, "This Tong Bing is really stupid. Who is Senior Xian Mu? What is he? He actually calls Senior Xian Mu brother? So disgusted. I heard that he got into Miracle Healer Academy through the back door. This kind of person has no strength at all. What else can he do besides riding on someone's coattails?" The voices of the people from Huang Medical Branch were not low, so Tong Bing of course heard them too. Tears of shame, anger, and embarrassment filled his eyes. He didn't understand why these people always used such malice to speculate and humiliate him. Tong Bing wanted to escape from this painful place, but when he thought of Xian Mu's safety, he held back his tears and let himself bear the humiliation to stay. Seeing that Xian Mu didn't even look at him, he wanted to go to Heshi and grab his sleeve, but he met Nangong Yu's cold and piercing eyes. Tong Bing was so frightened that he could only take a step back and begged in a low voice, "Shiyu, you are at the foundation establishment stage like me, so we don't need to participate in this experience. As long as you don't go, Xian Mu brother won't take risks. Can we not go? With our foundation establishment stage cultivation, we will only be their burden." Before Heshi had time to say anything, Qian Dezhuang had already sneered mercilessly and said, "Bah, you'll of course be our burden, but how can a trash like you compare yourself with Shiyu? That's right. Just don't go if you're afraid of death. Why drag Shiyu along with you? None of us expect you to go." "Yeah, won't he drag us down if he comes?" These ridicules became louder. Tong Bing felt a twinge of shame and anger at what they said. He looked at Shiyu with tears in his eyes, hoping that he could clarify for him. However, Shiyu didn't even look at him. She just talked to Nangong Yu on her own. Xian Mu didn't even look at him, he only had Shiyu in his eyes. Tong Bing clenched his hands into fists with tears streaming down his face. He just felt that at this moment, the whole world was isolating and humiliating him, making him feel indescribably lonely and cold. Those who had signed up all left to make preparations before departure. Tong Bing stood there blankly. No one paid attention to his existence, let alone his tears and heartache. After a long time, most of the students in the square left. Tong Bing was about to go back in a daze when he suddenly heard a low and gentle male voice in his ear. "Tong Bing, people in this academy bullied you and humiliated you so much, don't you want to take revenge? That Shiyu, he is just a foundation establishment stage like you should have what he has too. Don't you want to revenge?" Tong Bing's breathing stopped suddenly. He suddenly turned his head with his mouth closing and opening without making a sound, but there was a scorching light coming from his eyes. Chapter 1355. Conspiracy, Father. Lu Zhishi squatted in front of Lu Shuyang with a face full of unwillingness and panic and said, "Father, you know how scary and dangerous the magical beast forest is. Why do you want your daughter to go there?" Lu Shuyang glanced at her with a gentle smile, but there was not much affection in his eyes. His words were full of kindness. "Zhishi, listen to father. You suffered several losses under that siege, right?" Lu Zhishi's eyes were fixed, and a deep hatred and resentment flashed in her eyes. She raised her voice. "Shiyu, that despicable and insidious villain, he just relies on the ancient pill formula obtained from the sealed dragon domain." Lu Shuyang patted her lightly and said in disapproval, "Zhishi, what did I tell you? Never underestimate your enemies and don't let your enemies have a chance to grow. Shiyu and the existence of Shengde Hall are a great threat to our doctors' association. We must get rid of this person. This time will be the best opportunity." Lu Zhishi's eyes suddenly lit up and his expression became a little excited. "Father, you mean in the magical beast forest?" A glimmer of light flashed across Lu Shuyang's eyes as he smirked. "This is the best chance to get rid of him. I have dispatched 80% of the nascent soul intermediate stage and later stage elders of the Doctors Association. They will all obey your orders. We will get that Shiyu's life and the ancient pill formula in his hand. Zhishi, can you do it?" Lu Zhishi was excited when she heard the words. Even her body trembled with excitement. "Is the person who made me taste humiliation and defeat for the first time in my life and me sleepless and jealous, finally going to die this time?" However, Lu Zhishi immediately thought of something and said worriedly, "But I heard that Xian Mu also signed up. Xian Mu's strength is unfathomable, and he cares about that Shiyu very much. Plus, there is also a mysterious guard with a high cultivation beside Shiyu. I suspect the person is sent by King of Hell Nangongyu." When she said these words, the jealousy in Lu Zhishi's heart was like 10,000 ants gnawing at her heart. Never mind that Nangongyu does everything possible to protect Shiyu, but why does Xian Mu, who has never cared about anyone in the lower realm, look at Shiyu with admiration? Why am I not the one who got all this? Lu Shuyang was not worried when he heard the words, but he showed a more gentle and deep smile. "Don't worry, I have arranged everything. Whether it is the guards sent by Nangongyu, Xian Mu, or the academy elders, they will all be transferred away. I also planted a kindling beside Shiyu. I promise that when the time comes, I will burn him to ashes." Lu Zhishi stood up abruptly and said in a trembling voice, "Father, please tell me what to do. As long as Shiyu can be eliminated, I'm willing to venture into the magical beast forest." Lu Shuyang smiled with flickering eyes, and he slowly revealed his plan. Early the next morning, almost half of the students of Miracle Healer Academy gathered in the square. At this time, 2 airships had parked in the square. These airships could accommodate thousands of people. This trip to the magical beast forest was the biggest operation of Miracle Healer Academy in recent decades, so the airships, medicinal pills, and magic weapons that could be prepared were the best. All students participating in the training would receive a high-level storage bag from the academy, which contained many healing and spiritual power-replenishing medicinal pills, rank 6 or rank 7 magic weapons, and many high-grade crystal stones. Chapter 1356. Too disgusting. Most of the students in Huang Medical Branch were poor. Although they had become a lot richer after doing missions with Chen Dezhuang and others during this period of time, they were still happy to see such a magnificent scene. Everyone was laughing and joking when they got on the airship as if what they were going to was not the dangerous magical beast forest, but some kind of outing in the wild. In fact, most of the students who participated in this trial were very relaxed. After all, there were so many elders and deans accompanying them. In their subconscious minds, they felt that the crisis in the magical beast forest was far away from them. Everyone didn't know what kind of terrible disaster they were about to encounter in the magical beast forest. People in each branch were assigned to different cabins. When the people from Huang Medical Branch entered their cabins, they all looked surprised. Because there was an unexpected person in their cabin. The straightforward Chen Dezhuang exclaimed when he saw this person, "Tong Bing, why are you here?" Didn't you fear to death yesterday and refuse to participate? What are you doing here? Aren't you dragging us down? Tong Bing originally put on a friendly and innocent smiling face when waiting for everyone to come in, but when he heard Qian Dazhuang's words, his expression suddenly became sullen. There was a faint mist in his eyes. Fang Yun on the side frowned and said in a low voice, "Yesterday, I asked Dean Zheng for advice on pill formula, then Tong Bing suddenly came over and said that he wanted to join this trial. Dean Zheng persuaded him for a long time, telling him not to overreach himself, but he insisted to participate. He even said that since Brother Xian Mu is going, he must be by his side to protect him." Fang Yun was kind by nature, so he didn't finish it, but a burst of laughter suddenly broke out in the cabin. "Did I hear you right? Tong Bing, a cowardly scum, actually said he wants to protect Xian Mu? Just try your best not to be trampled to death by the magical beast. Brother Xian Mu all day long, and you cried at almost everything. Does he prefer the same gender and like Senior Xian Mu? No way. This is too disgusting. This weakling even fantasizes about getting the powerful Xian Mu?" Listening to everyone's merciless ridicule, Tong Bing trembled with shame and anger. He opened his mouth wanting to say, "Xiu also flirts with men, why don't you call him disgusting? Why everyone is humiliating me with the utmost malice? Torture him? What the hell have I done wrong?" At this moment, Xiu, Nangong Yu and Xian Mu also entered the cabin. Nangong Yu never concealed his possessiveness and pampering toward Xiu. Therefore, as soon as the three of them entered, everyone found that Xiu's shoulder was being hugged by her inconspicuous guard. When they walked to the couch on the side, everyone consciously stepped aside. Nangong Yu took it for granted and sat down on the couch with Xiu in his arms, poured her a cup of spiritual tea, and gently combed her temples. Xiu accepted all these services and tenderness, and she seemed to be at ease as if she had long been used to Nangong Yu's intimacy and pampering. On the contrary, Xian Mu, who was admired by everyone at Miracle Healer Academy, was left alone. People from Huang Medical Branch couldn't help but secretly commented, "I always feel that Xiu's guard and Senior Xian Mu have ulterior feelings for Xiu." Chapter 1357. Envy. A girl looked at Xiu's delicate smooth face, and she couldn't help muttering, "Xiu is so beautiful. Even if a man is attracted to him, it's reasonable. Yeah. And Xiu is so powerful. He is almost omnipotent." Miluo continent also had a lot of men who like men. Although the custom wasn't mainstream, it wasn't too shocking. Compared with the obsession with men, the people of Huang Medical Branch paid more attention to, but I think Xiu is too blind. Compared to his guard, isn't our Senior Xian Mu more handsome, stronger, and more imposing? That's right. I think Xiu and Senior Xian Mu are a good match. They are even roommates. Being together in the same room every day, they must have a good relationship. Suddenly, Nangong Yu exuded an aura so powerful that it made people tremble. The entire cabin suddenly succumbed to a strange silence. It was so quiet that everyone even held their breath in a panic. Nangong Yu's cold gaze swept over the face of the person who just said that he was not a good match for Xie. His eyes seemed to be quenched with cold poison, making everyone who was being glared at shiver. It wasn't until He laughed out loud and gently shook Nangong Yu's hand that the atmosphere in the entire cabin returned to normal. In fact, if His Royal Highness King of Hell regained his original appearance, he might be able to drop the jaws of everyone in this cabin. At that time, they even felt that there was no man or woman in the world worthy to stand with such this amazing king. He pursed her lips. Her eyes gleamed with faint satisfaction and sweetness. She quietly grabbed the hand of the man behind her. Tong Bing stared blankly at Xiu, who was surrounded by everyone, smiling sweetly. His heart was full of envy. Xiu was always the focus of the crowd, the darling of everyone. He also likes men. They are disgusted about me, but when they talk about Xiu, they feel that Xiu and Xian Mu are a good match. As long as Xiu exists, I will always be like dust, being isolated and completely ignored. Brother Xian Mu never even looked at him. He remembered the person who asked him before departing, Entering Miracle Healer Academy with the foundation establishment stage is considered very good, but because of the existence of Shiyu that you appear so incompetent, don't you hate him? Tong Bing clenched his hands hidden in his sleeves. His nails were embedded deep into his flesh. He was so jealous of Shiyu to the point of hating her. In the depths of the magical beast forest, there were towering trees all over the place. The forest was surrounded by clouds and mist all year round. This was a forbidden place for humans and a holy place for beastkins. No human martial artist could enter this area, not even a demigod who had broken through to the soul-splitting stage. So, no one knew that there was a palace on a clearing in this jungle. This palace was not luxurious and noble but simple and elegant. At this time, in the palace, a young man with long hair hanging down to the ground and gorgeous eyes was sitting at the top, looking down lazily. Kneeling below were many good-looking boys and girls, but they more or less retained the characteristics of beastkin. Some were ears, some were tails, and others were partial scales. A beastkin could transform itself when it became an adult, but once it was severely damaged, it would reveal its real body and transfigure a part of its real body. Chapter 1358. Revenge. A handsome young man knelt on the ground, but he had a dark scar on his face. His left hand hanging on the ground was severed too. The young man said with a hoarse voice full of resentment and pain, "Those human beings are even more ruthless than the demons in hell. We watched our brothers and sisters die in their hands one by one, but there was nothing we could do. King, you must avenge us." After the young man finished speaking, he slammed his head on the ground. The other beastkins who were kneeling behind the young man recalled their painful experience during this period and remembered those relatives and friends who had died. They cried bitterly and kept kowtowing while kneeling on the ground. The man in red clothes sitting at the top breathed out slowly. He made a captivating smile, but his words were filled with malice. Human beings are really getting more and more greedy and stupid. It seems that if we don't teach them a lesson, they will really think that we beastkin is easy to be bullied. At this moment, a girl kneeling behind the boy raised her head and said in a sobbing tone, "King, there are good people among humans too. This time, we were saved by 3 humans. Otherwise, we would be trapped in that dark dungeon until we die." The eyelashes of the man in red clothes trembled, and he said in a deep voice, "Our kind always repay kindness and enmity. Li Yu, do you know who saved you?" The girl shook her head, bit her lips and said, "I don't know their identities, but if I meet them again, I can sense their smell." Before Li Yu could finish speaking, the boy who kowtowed first interrupted her abruptly and said hatefully, "King, although I don't know who saved us, I do know where is the person who harmed us." "Oh." The young man suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were sparkling with blazing fire. "It's Miracle Healer Academy. I saw the plaque. We have been imprisoned in the courtyard of Miracle Healer Academy." The man in red clothes' eyes suddenly turned cold as he murmured, "Miracle Healer Academy, hee. Miracle Healer Academy, very good. Really good." At this moment, a report came from outside the door. A pangolin beastkin that was not fully transformed ran in, knelt down in front of the man in red clothes and said, "King, there are many human martial artists approaching the magical beast forest in airships." The man in red clothes frowned and said, "Do you know who it is?" The pangolin beastkin immediately nodded and said, "My subordinates have already sent Skylark to investigate. It is the students and elders of Miracle Healer Academy who have come to practice in the magical beast forest, and they want to capture the beastkin cubs alive." "What? How dare they?" As soon as the pangolin beastkin said this, all the beastkin in the palace were in an uproar. The young man with broken arm even jumped up from the ground and said hatefully, "Those scum, those demons, they actually dare to come to the magical beast forest." The young man looked up at the man in red clothes. His eyes were full of burning hatred and pleading, "King, please let me personally lead the army of magical beasts and tear our enemies to pieces." The man in red clothes sneered and slowly stood up from his seat. "I didn't go to them, but they even delivered themselves to our door. Hee hee, Good, this saves me a lot of trouble. Feng Luan, remember, don't kill them all at once, let them taste the pain that is worse than death. Chapter 1359, Bad Premonition, as King Commands. Feng Luan knelt on the ground excitedly. When he raised his head, his face was already twisted with hatred. I will let them all taste the hellish fear and pain the moment they close their eyes. The speed of the airships was very fast. After only a day and a night of flying, the magical beast forest had already appeared in sight. The magical beast forest occupied an unimaginably large area, almost across the borders of 5 countries in the Miluo continent. There were rare materials in the forest that were unimaginable outside, and this was one of the reasons why beastkins only lived in this place and rarely come out to attack the human kingdom. Heshi stood on the deck and looked down. All she could see was the lush vegetation, and she couldn't see the situation inside at all. However, she frowned. It's so strange. Nan Gongyu stepped forward, embraced her from behind and said softly, "What's wrong?" Heshi looked down. Nan Gongyu, you have entered the magical beast forest many times, right? Nan Gongyu nodded, but it's only the peripheral area, and I haven't gone deep into the real hinterland. Heshi asked, is the magical beast forest you entered also like this? What are you referring to? Nan Gongyu didn't understand her for a while. Quiet, deathly quiet. Heshi said in a deep voice, even if I release my divine sense, I can't detect any aura of living things. Even these trees exude a smell of death. Nan Gongyu was taken aback for a moment, then he let out his divine sense and his eyes also turned gloomy slightly. He really didn't realize it before Heshi reminded him. Now that he examined it carefully, the magical beast forest was really terribly silent. It seemed to be shrouded in an ominous aura of death. Heshi curled her fingers and tapped the ship's side lightly. Her delicate eyebrows were slightly frowned. For some reason, I have a bad feeling. At this moment, Wei Qingyuan came to look for Heshi. When he heard her words, he couldn't help but nervously said, "Shiyu, did you notice something's wrong?" Wei Qingyuan's voice was a little louder, which quickly attracted the attention of many people. Heshi didn't hide it, but she just repeated her worries. No matter how lush the vegetation is, it's impossible not to see a bird. This kind of quietness is like a preset trap, waiting for us to jump into it ourselves. The people of the Huang medical branch had unconditional trust in Heshi. Hearing what she said, their expression immediately became dignified and anxious. But immediately, a soft and pleasant female voice broke the atmosphere. "Shiyu, I know you are just at the foundation establishment stage, so it is normal to be afraid of entering the magical beast forest, but you don't know anything about the magical beast forest at all." Magical beast forest is indeed dangerous, but the real danger lies in the depths of tens of miles deep in the forest. In this peripheral area, even if there are magical beasts and beastkins, they are not to be feared. You don't have to be so nervous that you even affect other people's students' emotions. Heshi looked up, not surprised that Lu Zhishi would speak at such a time. She wasn't interested in talking nonsense with her either, so she just sneered, turned around and entered the cabin. The people of the Huang medical branch followed behind Heshi without even looking at Lu Zhishi. Among the remaining students, some agreed with Lu Zhishi and some were jealous of Shiyu, but none of them dared to speak out. Shiyu had already proved her strength with her actions. There were very few people in this school who could beat her, but there were many who had been treated by him and had taken her medicinal pills. Chapter 1360. Arrangement. Lu Zhishi only felt that the rhetoric she brewed was like hitting the cotton. She felt aggrieved that her body trembled slightly because of anger. Everyone used to listen to her, respected her and praised her in the past, but Shiyu has stolen most of her limelight after coming in for a few months. If this person is going to die, he must die in the magical beast forest. Soon, the airships hovered above the magical beast forest. The airship's shield opened, and each student and elder controlled their flying magic weapons to slowly descend from the sky. Young men and women, with fluttering robes, descended from the sky. This scene was spectacular. When the students of Miracle Healer Academy landed, they all maintained an elegant posture. There was a hint of self-satisfaction and arrogance on their faces. They were the most anticipated and admired children in the Miluo continent. However, this group of people did not realize that in the darkness, there were many scarlet eyes staring at them, waiting to pull them into the abyss. The last student landed in the forest, and the airships were kept away by Dean Li Qingquan. The vegetation in the forest was dense. It was impossible to find a spacious open space to gather so many students. However, when the first few elders landed, they had already waved their long swords and cut down all the surrounding trees. Deputy Dean Jiang, who led the team, was also full of worries at first, but now he had checked within a radius of more than 10 kilometers and found that there were only some low and intermediate level magical beasts, and he was immediately relieved. It seems that this time the trip is not so dangerous. Although the magical beast forest was full of dangers, what really scared people was the high-level beastkin hidden deep in the forest. But those high-level beastkins had an agreement with the human powerhouses. Most of the time they would not come out at will. Deputy Dean Jiang cleared his throat and explained the rules and arrangements of the operation to the students below. In summary, first, they were divided into 9 groups, namely the 8 branches of the academy and the elite class where Lu Zhishi and others belong, also known as the Pioneer Branch of Miracle Healer Academy. Second, each group would be assigned a branch dean and 3 to 5 elders to protect the safety of the students. Third, everyone's mission is to hunt beastkin cubs. When calculating the scores, they would be divided into individual and group calculations. The performance of everyone would be counted by Deputy Dean Jiang and Academy elders in the dark. Most people had no objection to this. However, someone from the leading branch suddenly said, "Deputy Dean Jiang, I think, according to the strength of Senior Xian Mu and Shi Yu, they should be assigned to our Pioneer Branch. Only us who have capable strength can cooperate with them well so as to better complete the mission. Besides, there are only a few dozen people in Huang Medical Branch, and the overall strength is also obvious. With such a huge disparity in strength, it would be lucky if they don't drag us down. Master Shenmu, Shiyu, what do you think?" As soon as this remark came out, the people of Huang Medical Branch suddenly rioted collectively. At the same time, they looked at Shenmu and Shiyu with a little worry. "Fuck you." Qian Dezhuang cursed angrily, "Our Huang Medical Branch can't have people with powerful strength? Why should our people go to your group? You bastards can't wait to see us all die in the magical beast forest, right?" Chapter 1361, Very Dangerous. Chen Xiaofeng also sneered and said, "When you expelled Shiyu from Heaven Medical Branch, why didn't you say that he didn't belong to Huang Medical Branch? Only now you such a thing? Won't you feel embarrassed? Do you all even feel shameful?" The young man from the Pioneer Branch who spoke looked pale. He said while bearing the humiliation, "Then even if Shiyu stays in Huang Medical Branch, at least Senior Xian Mu should join other branch. Even if it's not our Pioneer Branch, he can join the Heaven or Earth Medical Branch. It would be too wasteful to let him be with a group of trash with the strength of Senior." The young man's words immediately made everyone in the other branches felt eager. No one didn't know about Xian Mu's strength. If he could join their groups, whether it was their scores or safety, it would be guaranteed. Tong Bing looked at Xian Mu expectantly, thinking that as long as Xian Mu's brother went to another branch, he must follow. He would never leave Xian Mu's side. All eyes fell on Xian Mu. However, Xian Mu treated like they didn't exist. Not to mention their sight, he didn't even put these people into his eyes at all. His eyes fell on Shiyu as he said in a deep voice, "It's dangerous here, follow me." As soon as these words came out, Nangong Yu's eyes turned gloomy immediately. He looked over coldly, "Do I need you to protect my woman?" But the people from Huang Medical Branch let out a long sigh of relief. There were smiles on their faces. Zhang Yi, the youngest, even made a grimace at the people in the other branches and said with a grin, "Senior Xian Mu is willing to come here only because Brother Shiyu is here. He wants to protect Brother Shiyu. You want Xian Mu to go to your group? In your dream." The faces of the people in other branches all turned green due to shame, but the people of the Huang medical branch laughed loudly. Zheng Shouyue was also in a happy mood. He even said generously, "If you really think it's unfair, you don't need to assign the accompanying elders to us. It's enough for me to protect my students." Lu Zhishi's face turned grim. She made a gesture to the people next to her. Immediately, 2 Doctors Association elders and 1 Academy elder stood up and said, "We are ordered to accompany and protect the students of Huang Medical Branch. This is our duty. We must follow." Of course, Zheng Shouyue would not object to 3 more people protecting the students. After receiving the inscribed jade slip for emergency help, he took the students of the Huang Medical Branch and left first. Looking at these people leaving, Lu Zhishi showed a sneer. He walked side by side with Nangong Yu and Xian Mu in the dense jungle. The excited voice of the Huang Medical Branch could be heard from time to time in the distance as they hunted down low-level magical beasts. Although hunting low-level magical beasts was not the mission of this trial, the inner core of magical beasts was very good for cultivation. Of course, they would not let them go. He looked around and frowned deeply. Everything here is normal. There is no dead silence. Low-level magical beasts, birds, small animals, green vegetation. Everything here is very similar to a normal mountain forest. But why does it look so weird from a distance on the airship? Is it really my illusion? Heshi's murmured voice was heard by Nangong Yu and Xian Mu. Xian Mu responded immediately, "No, this place is very dangerous." Chapter 1362. Beastkin cub Tong Bing had been following behind the 3 of them step by step. He really wanted to stand beside Xian Mu, and even being cuddled in his arms. However, Tong Bing turned his eyes to Shiyu. As long as Shiyu was around, Xian Mu wouldn't even look at him. Hearing Xian Mu say that this place was very dangerous, Tong Bing shuddered subconsciously and wanted to step forward and grab Xian Mu's sleeve, but he silently withdrew his hand. Nangong Yu didn't bother to quarrel with Xian Mu anymore. He frowned and said, "This place seems to be the same as other places in the magical beast forest, but I always have a strange feeling." Nangong Yu hadn't finished speaking when an exclamation came not far away. "Beastkin, it's a beastkin cub. I found a beastkin cub that can transform. Everyone come here." As soon as these words came out, Heshi's complexion changed slightly. Her figure flickered and disappeared in place. Nangong Yu and Xian Mu also disappeared at the same time. No one cared about Tong Bing behind him, and no one gave him a hand. Everyone, including Shiyu, seemed to have forgotten his existence. Tong Bing's eyes were slightly red. There was a flash of deep jealousy in his eyes. He enchanted his feet with a gale wind spell and quickly ran toward the direction of the sound. It was not a student of Huang Medical Branch who found the beastkin cub, but a medicinal boy of an elder of the Doctors Association. When Heshi arrived, she saw only a beautiful girl surrounded by dozens of people. Her face was full of panic. This girl looked to be only 12 years old, not much older than Xiao Li, and her appearance was almost the same as that of a human child. However, Heshi could detect the beastkin aura surging from this girl without using divine sense to investigate carefully. The medicinal boy who found the girl said with excitement, "This beastkin cub has transformed so perfectly, the inherited bloodline must be very rare. Master, if we can catch her, President Lu will definitely..." Before the medicinal boy finished speaking, he was glared at by Elder Chen of the Doctors Association and stopped talking immediately. But Elder Chen was very excited. Their real purpose here was not to hunt beastkin cubs, but he also knew how eager the president and the people above were to get the inherited bloodline beastkin. If this beastkin could be caught, his future status in the Doctors Association. No, perhaps he might still be favored by those above. The students of Huang Medical Branch all showed expressions of unbearable. Several girls even frowned and said, "Could we have made a mistake? This is obviously a little girl. We are so many, how can we attack a little girl?" Elder Chen's medicinal boy snorted and said with a sneer, "Have you forgotten the purpose of this trip? The beastkin aura on this little beastkin is almost overflowing, and you still can't smell it? You guys are indeed trash. The students of Huang Medical Branch all had ugly faces. The two elders of the Doctors' Association also glanced at them contemptuously. Elder Chen took out a magic weapon similar to a whip and lashed at the surrounded little girl. Ah! The little girl staggered and stumbled over, crying out in pain. Her original legs also turned into the shape of a snake because of the pain. It's a snake beastkin, and it's a very rare amethyst snake in the Miluo continent. Ha! We got a big one. Seeing the little girl transformed into a half-snake, Elder Chen became excited. Quick, you guys surround her quickly. I want to put her in my Qian Kuan mirror. Chapter 1363. There are traps. Most of the students of Huang Medical Branch showed a look of unbearable. Some couldn't help but said, even if she is a beastkin, she is just a child. So many of us deal with a little girl, it's too, bah. What little girl? Elder Chen's medicinal boy said with contempt and disgust, if she is not of our race, her heart must be different. Beastkin is beastkin after all. They are born to be enslaved by us. They thought they could live like normal people by turning themselves into human appearance? Stop dreaming. The scene was silent. Even though the people from Huang Medical Branch felt pity, they all stopped their movements when they thought of the phrase, if she is not of our race, her heart must be different. At this time, no one noticed that the little girl who was knocked down on the ground showed a cold and malicious light in her drooping eyes. Seeing that Elder Chen was about to use the Qian Kuan mirror to take away the little beastkin let out a strange cry, then she turned into a small snake and fled toward the distance. Hurry up, don't let her run away. Elder Chen yelled and anxiously chased after her. Although the people from Huang Medical Branch couldn't bear it, after remembering the purpose of this trip, they also chased after her. Zheng Shouyue always felt that something was wrong, but before he could call the students back, those people had already hurriedly chased after her. He stomped his feet, and he had no choice but to say to the rest of the crowd, "Follow me. Also, don't leave too far from me." The group of people clamored while chasing in the direction where the little snake fled. Heshi, Nangong Yu and Xian Mu also followed slowly with indescribable seriousness in their eyes. They flew at low altitude at high speed for about 15 minutes. Then Elder Chen suddenly screamed in front, "No, it's a trap." Ah! Followed by the miserable scream of the medicinal boy. The scream was so sharp and terrifying that the hearts of everyone who were still flying forward were tense. There was a bit of fear on their faces. The next moment, everyone felt a blur in front of their eyes. A mist rose from the forest, covering everyone. The person who was originally flying in midair suddenly fell from the air, unable to fly anymore. Zheng Shouyue got up from the ground in embarrassment and hurriedly looked around. Everything in front was normal and there didn't seem to be any fatal crisis, but there seemed to be a white mist in the distance. However, when Zheng Shouyue was about to fly again, he found that he seemed to be suppressed by something. Someone couldn't help asking in panic, "I seem to have heard a scream just now? What happened? Where's Elder Chen?" As soon as this person finished speaking, everyone saw two figures ejected from the white mist in front and fell heavily in front of them. Seeing these two people, everyone gasped in unison. These two people were Elder Chen and his medicinal boy. Both of them were covered with scars. Elder Chen was better. Although his head and face were covered with scars and blood, after he consumed a medicinal pill, the wounds began to heal slowly. But that medicinal boy could almost be described as horrible. His face was completely blood. His nose and ears had been bitten off by something, revealing jagged wounds. One of his legs was missing and it was bleeding. It seemed to be forcibly torn off by something. Chapter 1364. Confinement space. In addition, his abdomen was also cut open. The viscera, food residues and feces flowed out all over the floor, emitting a disgusting stench. But the most frightening thing was that the medicinal boy was already like this, yet he was not dead yet. He had one eye open, looking forward in horror. He kept mumbling in an intermittent voice, "Help, help me." After Elder Chen healed his injury, he immediately took out medicinal pills to treat the medicinal boy. However, the internal organs were destroyed, so the medicinal pills could not be absorbed by the medicinal boy at all. Even if Elder Chen was a senior doctor of the Doctors Association, there was nothing he could do. Suddenly, he looked up at Shiyu and ordered eagerly, "Shiyu, cure him. Quick." Shi raised her eyebrows, and her expression was calm. She didn't even move a step. She just said indifferently, "Why?" Elder Chen was choked by her attitude, then he was furious. "Did you forget that we are here to practice together? He is also your teammate, how can you refuse to save him?" Before Shi could speak, someone from the Huang Medical Branch said angrily, "Damn, you are the elder of the Doctors Association? You want Shiyu to treat the person whom you can't cure? Won't you feel ashamed?" "Hee, it's fine if you don't have the skill to save people, but you even yell at Shiyu? Is this the attitude you should have when asking for help?" Elder Chen and another elder from the Doctors Association trembled angrily. With this delay, the medicinal boy finally swallowed his last breath in unparalleled fear and pain. Elder Chen stared at Shi with resentment and said, "Shiyu, you will face your retribution later for not saving him." "Enough." Zheng Shuyue said coldly with a straight face, "Is this the time to argue about this? Don't you realize that we are trapped in this place?" As he said that, he turned his head to look at Elder Chen. "Elder Chen, what happened just now? Who attacked you?" Elder Chen was stunned for a moment. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. After a while, he whispered, "I don't know. Just now I chased the little beastkin to this ace, then the white mist suddenly appeared. Then, I heard the screams of my disciples. So I rushed into the white mist. When I came into the white mist, I couldn't see anything, but I felt countless pairs of claws were attacking me and sharp teeth were biting my body. If I didn't self-destruct my magic weapon, I would be dead like my apprentice now." Elder Chen's words made everyone's eyes fall on the white mist. The students of Huang Medical Branch showed panic expressions. After all, they were just children. Even though they had experienced ups and downs, they had never faced such a strange crisis. At this moment, Shi also frowned and said in a deep voice, "It seems that we were ambushed." Nangong Yu also nodded and said, "The little beastkin just now is obviously a bait." Shi looked around. "What's the matter with this white mist?" Before Nangong Yu could speak, the little golden dragon in the void had already uttered like a cannonball, "Boss, it's the confinement space. My God, it's even a very high-level confinement. And this space is not filled with spiritual power coercion, but beastkin aura. It seems to be jointly cast by high-level beastkins." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.